Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Full Funnel Live. I forgot what is the episode is in a row we have, but I bet it's 160 or something. Just crazy to realize how many episodes we have done so far, and that the majority of these episodes were actually the live podcast episodes with you guys, with our community. Let us know. I know there are already a couple of people joining us live. Let us know, guys, where you all joining us from. And meanwhile, we'll share the agenda for today. Today, as promised, we're going to chat about role of sales in demand generation. Not the most obvious topic, right? Because quite often the first perception will be like, why sales should be involved in demand gen, right? Completely different functions, completely different departments. But as you know, we always promote and evangelize the cross-functional collaboration, which means that everybody creates awareness, everybody creates demand, everybody creates pipeline, everybody works on activation, right? This is the team sport. And today we want to share with you what exactly sales should be in charge when it comes to demand generation, or how they could work with marketers on generating demand. Vlad has prepared awesome deck with tons of examples. So I think from that point we can kick it off and yeah, pass on mic to you, Vlad.
Thank you. Before we jump into the examples, I wanted to just very briefly highlight this model that you see here on the screen. It's too small to read, which is perfect. I just wanted to give you an overview of the different activities that we believe are the different key pillars that we believe any demand generation programs should have. And the first one is brand awareness. We know that it's very important for sales, especially to create that brand awareness, because if you're unknown, it's very hard for sales to get a response. They lose out on brand. There are very many different reasons why you want the buyers to be aware, but essentially we know that buyers actually, even most buyers will pre-select vendors that they are aware of, especially in large companies. So brand awareness is important, and we are going to talk about how can sales participate in brand awareness. Then the demand generation itself, creating demand, educating buyers about solutions to their problems, how our product is different and worth buying. And from the sales perspective, actually also warming up the, let's say, the buying committee and preparing them. Excuse me, there is some noise coming from the outside, so I need to close my window. That is the other part. So generating demand for your product. A lot of these activities from marketing and that are done through messaging and content. So we need to make sure that this messaging content is actually reaching our target buyers, our buying center, through distribution. So that's kind of in the middle. We need to make sure that distribution as sales also plays a role there. And finally, demand capture. You want to capture the demand that you've generated to increase, not to leave the money on the table. And that's obviously also where sales can play a role. And these are traditionally, in most companies, all of these activities are traditionally pure marketing activities. So with that out of the way, I think we can jump in each of these key pillars and see how sales should actually contribute. And the first one is brand awareness. So Andrei, maybe you can jump into brand awareness and share what the goals, the metrics are, and then we can share some examples there.
I know you clicked on the slide, but I wanted to ask everybody here one question. If we apply account-based philosophy, right? And in B2B marketing, honestly, almost everything is account-based, right? We just need to focus on our best accounts. Question to you guys: who has the best access to target audience, to target accounts? Question in the chat. Let us know, please. who has the best access to target audience, who is communicating with them on a regular basis, likely daily. This is our sales team, right? So obviously, BDRs, exactly. So if we look from the perspective of generating demand, right? We have ads, we create content, we run events. For what reason? We want to make sure that our target accounts see our product, become curious, learn about this product, understand the value, right? Understand the benefits of our product, and potentially consider us. So if we look, obviously we have ads, right? And ads is more or less controllable channel, right? We can, especially if we're talking about LinkedIn, for example, we can select accounts we want to target. We can set up the precise job role, job titles, targeting, etc. Right? So there are plenty of opportunities. But outside ads, what are the best channels we have? And in reality, these are the sales networks, because sales are building these networks every single day. Some of them do it in a bad way, in a bad manner, just spamming everybody, right, on LinkedIn and via email. Some of them do it in a meaningful way, mapping out the buying committees of their strategic accounts, engaging, building the relationship, etc. Right? But where I'm leading with this, the key point is that we want to make sure that we leverage our best channel. And now, if you guys have ever interviewed your sales reps about their sales process, challenges that they face in the sales process, I bet that if you have ever done this, if no, I highly recommend you to do this. Do this just schedule this call with your sales team. You'll benefit a lot from this. Ask this: what are the main challenges in your sales processes you guys face? Where are the biggest drop-offs? Quite often, you'll hear the lack of awareness in strategic accounts. Now, follow up with the second question: what can maximize your chances that they will reply back to you? And quite often you'll hear, they know me, they had prior engagement with us, they are connected to our clients, or they are connected to some of our partners, for example, or we have a valuable information that we can share with them, right? That's the key. So from that perspective, that means that we need to enable our sales teams to have with this valuable information so they could maximize their chances. And next, we need to help them to create this visibility so they become a known person. But known for what? Known for spamming everybody, right? With like endless cadences. Hey, I just wanted to check in. It seems that you didn't read my message, so I just wanted to check in. I just wanted to check in last time, but no, I will just follow up on email, just the last check-in. Otherwise, I'm going to unsubscribe you from my sequence, right? Do we want our sales reps being known for this? Or do we want to be known as the experts in our industry, people who can help, people who can advise? So yesterday I was on another interview and we chatted a little bit about sales decades ago, right? There were no junior BDRs or business development managers. These were the consultants. The sales process was consultative. So these people were having the domain knowledge, right? So the same mindset we need to, even if we have now junior SDRs, because that could be our question, but what to do if we have? You need to train them and you need to supply them with this industry information so they could create this visibility, they could create this awareness, they could generate demand, right? And the key goal is that we want to position them as the trusted advisors, as industry experts, as consultants, because there is a simple truth. No single buyer loves to hang out with BDRs. If you don't believe me, just reach out to any senior person that your sales reps are targeting and ask, hey, do you guys love to, when our business development managers pick up your brains and qualify you for 20, 30 minutes trying to validate what are your needs. I guess you'll rarely hear positive replies, right? So what we want to make sure is that we enable our sales reps to be perceived as industry experts, so they create the visibility, and that's also, this is the process that helps to create the brand visibility, right? And they have reply rates, their connection requests are accepted, their messages or emails are receiving the replies, and these are the metrics that we usually track: account engagement and response rates. So that was kind of a brief, let's say, zoom in from our collateral, just to give more perspective on brand awareness. But I touched a couple of points, so again, passing mic back to you, Vlad. So let's maybe quickly cover the key pillars.
Absolutely. So how can sales participate in creating brand awareness? Content, as always, is one of the key pillars, and the sales can repurpose and share expertise content from their own social profiles. If the buyers are on social, if they're active on social, which is case in a lot of cases, which is true in a lot of cases, and I'll share in a moment what to do when this is not the case. But I would also add one more thing here, is that they should also share insights about target accounts with marketing. Like Andrei asked at the beginning of this podcast, who has the most contact with the target accounts, with the target buyers? Yes, it's sales, obviously also the CS, customer success. So they are the source of information in a lot of cases, the source of information when it comes to insights about those target accounts. What are the challenges, priorities, etc.? Why is that important? Because if you're going to base your content on these insights, it's going to resonate more. And like Andrei mentioned as well, the best way to support sales is with something valuable that I can share. So a very good litmus test for any piece of content is, would a VP of sales share this piece of content with a strategic target, with a decision maker or a target buyer at the strategic target account? And the best way to guarantee that is if you're creating your content based on those insights. So a long-winded way to say we can support sales with content or input for content. I'll share also some other ways in which they can maybe repurpose some of that content themselves. And as you can see, this was a fantastic example here where sales has shared a piece of content, actually quite quickly produced together, and got an enormous awareness of the target accounts, exactly the kind of people and companies that they were after. So that's why content helps you create that trusted advisor perception rather than yet another sales rep. Content on social especially also lends itself to outreach. You're engaging with my content, I can reach out to you and start a conversation about the topic that this content piece was about, etc., etc. Many good reasons to do that. When it comes to content, I would ask myself, or in your team, I would ask these questions. How can we, as marketing, support sales with content creation? Why? Because like we recently had on our summit, a group of salespeople from our clients, I think it was 3 different clients, and we ran a roundtable. And when we asked them about what they appreciated the most as support during the ABM programs they ran internally from their marketing team, everybody was talking about content first. So content is really the biggest way in which you can support, something valuable for them to share. And I would also ask, okay, are there any quote unquote easy wins or something that maybe sales can even prepare themselves or can repurpose themselves? And there are things like, what we call permissionless co-creation, where you can they can just leverage existing content from thought leaders in the industry, etc. But the even more interesting question is, what types of content help start conversations? And the 2 types of content that we love are the so-called account love letters and content collaborations. By account love letters, what we mean are you take a target account and you write a post about that account. We can share examples, but essentially it is kind of congratulatory post. You find a trigger or a good news piece of information about that account. You write about that, and you might mention also how they would benefit from improving, let's say, their sales and marketing collaboration if you're into ABM, or any other aspect, any other process that your product actually helps them with. So these work really well because now sales has a good piece of content that is guaranteed to attract the attention of that target account, can use it to start conversations. Content collaborations, and another one where basically the sales can help you create content by reaching out to their connections, to target accounts, asking for the quote. It's an easy way to create content, but also obviously is a start of a conversation for that sales rep. So I would ask ourselves, like, okay, do we have existing assets that they can repurpose? What are the other easy wins? How can we support them from the marketing team? But also don't just think about any content, think about content that can actually help them start conversations.
If you don't mind, I just want Vlad to interrupt you for a second, because we had to create questions about content, and I think it would be
perfect time to address them.
Yeah, so one is from Christina and the second one from Kanako. So I think it would be beneficial to cover both of them. So the first one from Christina: what if our sales reps are really junior, almost out of school, and they have little or no industry knowledge to share? When target account buyer would click on their profile, they see that sales reps are too junior. So let's cover the fundamental issue. You put unqualified sales reps in front of your buyers. That's the fundamental go-to-market mistake, right? Obviously, we can. I mean, this problem has deeper roots. I know where it's coming from, but if that's the intent, so these people would be just sending scripted messages. The first thing that will happen very soon, they will be replaced by AI. As simple as that. Unfortunately, that's the sad reality, because AI could do this monkey job at scale if you just, all you want to do is send in scripted, emails and messages. Now, the solutions to this problem: you need to have proper onboarding where these people have tons of interviews with the subject matter expert. And generally, in that case, you need to have, I believe, you need to have good account-based marketing motion where these people are incorporated and they are learning from senior people, understanding the jobs to be done of buyer persona, etc., etc., etc. So a couple of things here. Now, aside from this, a funny anecdote: we just finished literally last week a pilot program with your neighbors from Belgium, another company, where we had junior SDR, not almost out of school, but still junior SDR. And this was probably in our entire history the most efficient ABM program in terms of pipeline value generated from ABM and sales opportunities. Why? Again, because a couple of things were true. First, we kind of finished what I just mentioned. We made sure that this person was properly onboarded by subject matter experts, etc. Obviously, it takes time until all the knowledge gaps will be fulfilled, but at least the initial onboarding was done properly. Next, this person was closely working with subject matter expert and marketing as well. So there was a list of topics. We have a specific exercise for this. We have extracted list of the most important topics that we need to talk about to be able to create demand from these accounts. And next, this content was created not by sales rep. Obviously, this was created by marketing, but the profile of that person was optimized. It's if you look at this profile, it's not the junior SDR that wants to sell whatever, right? This profile looks like an industry professional, right? So if you look at the profile of that person, you'll feel that this is a knowledgeable person that's has tons of experience in that space. And the good news are that this person is absolutely capable to have initial discussions and do the initial calls. And dependent on, we have good process in place for pre-qualifying the accounts and their needs. So dependent on the status of the buyer persona, we either involve kind of solution architect, right, the person who can talk about technical things, or a senior account executive. That's all account executives are subject matter experts that could help with the call facilitation, which gives immediate value for the buyers, right? So that's the first question. And the second one, if Vlad want to take this from
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. So Kanako is asking, piggybacking on Christina questions, other possibility, what if our sales reps are not active on LinkedIn and haven't established themselves as SMEs? If they if they start posting all of a sudden, wouldn't that look unauthentic? Well, how do you actually become, how do you start being seen as a subject matter expert? How do you establish yourself as somebody who is known in the industry? Exactly by doing this, exactly by not only posting. Obviously, you need to build that audience. So you need to do other activities that we're about to share in a moment. But by sharing that content is exactly how you will start creating that awareness and start to change that perception and positioning. I think Andrei also addressed this, like the profile will update, you'll start sharing the content, and even with a junior person, as it can be seen from the example that Andrei shared, this can be overcome. Now, I think if I ask myself and play devil's advocate, I think I can see cases where you have, people maybe coming from a different industry, they're new to the industry, they don't have connections in the target industry, etc. And if I look at the slide that we are sharing here, there is an example of a post, 4 ingredients of a great QA engineer. And this was a post that was created by one of our clients who had zero knowledge about what it means to be a QA, quality assurance and software engineer, essentially. So they're very technical. They didn't have that background. They didn't have a lot of knowledge. And by the way, they weren't unauthentic, pretending to have that knowledge. What he did was he basically, he was asking himself the questions that he knew from the audience based on all the research and everything that the audience was asking. And then he was finding other people who were actually already kind of recognized, had the credibility with this audience, and he was curating their content. So in this case, he found insights from 4 different subject matter experts and put together a carousel and shared that worked really well. Even though he didn't have that background, even though he wasn't really even connected to the target audience, this post worked really well, actually. So what I'm trying to say is that you can also do this in a way that feels more authentic by saying, hey, this is what I learned. I mean, I'm a sales guy, or a woman, and I'm talking every day with customers, and this is what I learned from them. And this is what I learned from my subject matter expert. This is actually how, in this specific case, that person was sharing the content. So he was somebody who was trying to learn about the industry. The way that he was positioning himself is like, okay, that's my job. I'm in this industry and I want to learn about this industry, and I'm sharing what I'm learning, right? I'm kind of curating this information and sharing my lessons learned. So I don't really see that as inauthentic. I don't see any problem with that. It's actually quite the opposite. It is the way for that person to overcome this perception. And I think we could now dive in, and I would like to ask you, because you have really good experiences with account mapping, to explain this step or this element.
Yeah, absolutely. So the second step, which is by default a sales function, is account mapping, which means that sales are supposed to do multi-threading and engaging with the entire buying committee. The sad reality is that in too many B2B companies that never happens. So companies define, I simply don't know any B2B company that would say we don't know our target buyer personas. They usually say, obviously, we have our ideal customer profile nailed down. We know our buyer persona. And then you ask, okay, so what's this? And then they start sharing with you, C+ and VP titles, right? Now, when you ask about the role of this buyer persona, they always say, these are the decision makers. We just need to get to the decision makers and sell to them. If you are selling to startups, to small organizations, it's non-questionable. That's absolutely true. Now, the fun begins if you start selling to mid-market and especially enterprise companies. We just did once this experiment with Vlad. Was a couple of years ago when we had senior account executive on the call, and it was about expansion play, if you remember, Vlad. So we asked, they are selling to, just to maybe to give everybody a proper example. So the company, the target account is called Oracle. So you all know this company, right? Now, they're selling to IT teams. They sold to one business unit in the US. They sell worldwide, and the goal is to do expansion worldwide. So I'm saying, okay, help me to understand your kind of buying committee mapping process. So what person does, hey, I'm just open LinkedIn Sales Navigator, so let's select Oracle as an account. And so let's select the seniority title, senior, director, whatever. I forgot the exact titles in Sales Navigator. But let's say we apply seniority level, some core titles. And voila, we have 10,000 potential buyers. So I'm saying, what's next? Like an awkward pause happens. Well, I guess I would just maybe apply a few more filters and then just apparently see what are kind of some right personas here, and then what? Well, I will just add them to my, cadence. As simple as that. So, question to all of you. How efficient do you think is this motion? How likely this company is to generate new sales opportunities with this expansion play, right? They're miserable. The same, by the way, is applicable to new pipeline generation, right? So the problem is that companies don't really know the buying committees. And the second problem, which everybody ignores, I mean, obviously, maybe there would be a few sales reps that would call me kind of obsolete old school marketing guy. They would say, hey, I'm like Leo DiCaprio in The Wolf from the Wall Street. I can call anybody and just sell anybody. I simply never met these folks, but I believe a couple of them would be. The problem that they all ignore is the anecdote that I would love to share with you, which we kind of spotted with Vlad a few months ago. There was a conference, I feel it was Adobe conference in the US, and that was CTO from Snowflake. So probably you all know Snowflake. So when he finished his keynote, the room was full of sales reps. And one sales rep raised hand and said, hey, I just have one quick question while you're on the stage. Can I ask you? Yeah, for sure. So my question is, how can I attract your attention, or what we as sales reps can do to attract your attention, like senior, like CTO of enterprise account, right? And he said, it's not possible. The only way to attract my attention, if you attract the attention of my team, and my team will come back to me and tell me that there is a vendor, or there is a product, or there is a solution to our strategic initiatives, and they will show me how our team will benefit and why should we invest into this right now. That's the only way you can attract my attention. Or another anecdote, but this Vlad you experienced firsthand when we were talking to another CTO of a prospect, not a client, but a company that we were negotiating with, and CTO the same. He said, "Look, guys, you can send the like super personalized email to me. You can know all details about me. But if I don't know you, it will be bulk deleted. I simply don't have time to read the emails from unknown sales reps." So where I'm headed with this, the sad reality is that you shouldn't focus only the decision makers. You need to create awareness inside the entire buying committee, right? Champions, power users. You need to think about all potential groups, influencers, people who are not directly working with you, but would be involved into the internal decision-making process. And if you want to generate these deals, again, as I would love to elaborate on this. If you are selling to small businesses, to startups, etc., that's not your problem. But if you are selling to mid-sized organizations, if you are selling to enterprises, this is the only way you'll be able to sell. Aside from occasional sales where you got lucky, right? But you need to distinguish luck and robust processes. That's the key. So from that perspective, sales must create awareness among all buying committee members, do this regular multi-threading, making sure that when internal conversation happens, and when this team is evaluating different vendors, you are in the consideration stage. You has been considered. That's the key.
All right, so let's move on to two more key elements or pillars of brand awareness, or how sales can impact that brand awareness. I think this is really the key, this is the key activity, and one that not a lot of salespeople actually do, and this is social or community engagement. And when we say engagement, what we mean simply is engaging with the buyers if they're sharing posts, commenting on their posts, if they are commenting, engaging in the conversation with them, sending them personalized connection requests, engaging with people that they follow, commenting, and creating awareness really in their feed, right? And in their notification. And people are sometimes thinking like, okay, but if I do this, will it maybe not seem inauthentic, but they will be posting, let's say maybe they're posting not always on the relevant topics, etc. Will this seem genuine? Will this look good? And actually, what is the truth? The truth is that if you look at LinkedIn and a lot of buyers, how do they actually post? Well, they post infrequently. They might share some updates, and they are not, usually like leaders on LinkedIn that have thousands and tens or hundreds of thousands of followers that receive so much engagement. So when there is an engagement, usually they will notice it. So that's one thing to consider. And whenever there is an engagement, it's so much easier to start a conversation. If I'm trying to connect with Andrei and we don't know each other, if I share a thoughtful comment on his post and then I connect with him and I say, hey, love the insight you shared and whatever, try to continue that conversation from that comment in private messaging, he's much more likely to accept it, right? So that's really the key. We mentioned social so many times. This is, I think, the bread and butter of sales and creating awareness. Be where the buyers are. Well, in some cases, your buyers may not be, or some buyers may not be on social. Where do you go then? I mean, there are different places which you can go. For technical buyers, these could be communities. For some markets, you will have, technical buyers who might still be checking out and reading some posts on LinkedIn, and in some cases, you might even be able to stand out because not a lot of other people or brands are sharing content in that space, right? If that's a kind of a niche space. But at the same time, they might not be very engaged on the platform. They might not post, they might not comment, they might be like very silent observers. So in that case, if there is a community, could be like a Slack community, Discord, it could be, you know, a traditional forum, there you might have bigger luck. So, and it's actually even better because you don't even have to create and share content. You can ask questions, you can engage with other people's posts. And like, as you can see in this example, this was just a, like normally in a community, you will have much bigger engagement if you're regular, if you're known by the community members. But in this case, our client first time came there, asked a specific question, and got quite good engagement, in my opinion, by different people. He asked about experience with, you know, let's say in this case, it was about something in regulated testing in regulating industries. And a lot of people gave some feedback, gave some ideas, gave some insight there. And he could then also, by the way, then collect that insight and create a post that he shared both on LinkedIn and in that community. So you can see how that can work really, really great. But the key point really, or a key takeaway here, is that this, you might not have content to share. It might be difficult to get that done internally. Yes, there are workarounds that you can do, but there might be difficulties. But for engagement on social communities, there is basically no excuse. There is definitely something that anybody can do. And it's a missed opportunity not to do it. So while these are not exhaustive list of ways for sales to create awareness, there is a couple of more that we'll share in the moment when we talk about distribution. I think maybe we can shift gears and start talking about the other elements of demand generation other than awareness. And the next one that we had was about demand generation itself.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the second part of the process, as we spoke, right? First, when we create awareness, we do it for several reasons, right? We want to build the relationship with the buying committee. We want to create this visibility, and we want to make sure that these people will reply back to us. So from that perspective, we need to have a couple of activities in place, right? One of them is in-depth account research. Again, maybe we're just evangelizing ABM philosophy here, right? But I simply don't know any way to create enterprise sales opportunities without mapping out your solution or your offer to strategic initiatives of target accounts, concrete strategic initiatives, not something like we help companies X, Y, and Z with something like with your typical value prop, right? But just fully personalized offering, right? And that is also tailored to the buying committee members that you try to engage. So for this specific reason, you need to have in-depth account research and also progressive profiling. Progressive profiling is constantly collecting new insights about the initiatives, challenges, goals, KPIs, jobs to be done of your target buyer personas through multiple conversations you have. And from that specific reason, obviously, this is not black and white process. So it doesn't mean that you just either send them the message, hey, can you tell me your challenges next? Can you tell me your priorities? Or, and expect them they reply or don't reply, right? No, obviously, I'm not referring to this. So from that perspective, we need to have multiple touch points, right? And Vlad mentioned the content, the distribution of the content that allow us to spark these conversations, right? That's the key. And from that perspective, a few helpful metrics that we love to track is account penetration, basically with how many buying committee members we were able to connect and engage, and what is our account to conversation ratio, which means with how many accounts we have these ongoing conversations, right? Again, I'm not referring, we are not referring in this case to the discovery calls, but these are the conversations where you try to understand better the needs. You open the doors basically to understand the initiatives of these accounts, right? So from that perspective, it means that we have two sides of the account research process. One is the public account research, or the desk research, as we call it, right? Which means that you need to collect all the publicly available information about the strategic initiatives of your target accounts, and then the private research or one-to-one research, where you'll be gain the information that is only possible to collect via one-to-one conversations, right? So that's the key. I will cover the first part about the in-depth account research, and if you guys are interested, we have done an episode with Jim from Terminus once about this account research process, and where we covered this in more detail. We also have this in our ABM course, so I will just highlight the key details, right? When it comes to account research, obviously there are few sources that are publicly available for you. These are company press releases, annual filings, annual reports, right? Anything that you can easily spot. But what we have seen, where are the golden nuggets hidden, is the interviews with the key stakeholders. So quite often, for example, we also observe this in our consulting projects. When we engage with the sales teams, they name a few publicly available facts that they could see from the website. But then I'm trying to dig deeper and find whether any interviews, at least in the recent year, right, in the last 12 months, with the key stakeholders. And obviously, years ago, it was complicated. You need to sit down, you need to listen to this interview, so you need to hire somebody from, I don't know, Upwork, for example, to listen to this interviews and transcribe and summarize it for you. Nowadays, you just in a few click aways to listen to this interview, summarize, and even with help of AI, you can quickly find the necessary facts, right? And you don't need to ask ChatGPT to pretend to be your buyer persona. Don't do this, please. But you can just literally transcribe it with the script, put the text into AI, in any AI software, and ask, hey, can you please find the moments when they are talking about, and then you mention few strategic initiatives that are relevant to you, right? And that's the key. And then you start analyzing the buyer's language, what exactly they are talking about, not what AI shares with you. So that's the point. These are the essential points that would be highly beneficial for you, because based on this, next, you can share these insights with marketing and discuss together, brainstorm together. What pieces of content can we create that would be helpful, for example, to attract attention to our product, right, related to this kind of key initiatives or key challenges? How can we build if I'm a sales rep, how can I build my next conversations with these different buying committee members? What can I say? What can I share with them, right? Maybe if you have a calendar of different events, you can say, hey, guys, can we maybe shift a little bit the angle of our next event and cover like these specific topics, right? Because I'm seeing that this is a repetitive pattern in my set of strategic accounts. So that could be multiple things. And again, don't look only at the decision makers. Make sure that you look at potential champions, influencers, etc. Right? That's the key. So the goal is to find these golden nuggets that will allow you the further nurturing and the further relationship building with these accounts. So that's the first part. The second one is the content collapse that Vlad already mentioned a couple of times. And these are other activities that help you to gain these personalized insights. So
basically, your goal is to kind of, again, go step back. Your goal as a sales rep within the demand generation part is to get these insights about the priorities, challenges of those target accounts, so that you can create demand by showing them how you can help, how you and your solution can actually help solve those challenges, help them reach their goals, right? So understanding those challenges, goals, priorities, etc., is a key. And Andrei showed how can we use the publicly available information, but not everything can be gleaned from the public information. Actually, the best kind of insights are insider information. Now, you can't just go and ask, hey, are you buying right now? And do you have this challenge? because nobody would answer. We don't know each other. Why would I answer that? It's a privileged information or whatnot. But you can start this conversation, start getting that insight by these tactics that we are sharing right now. And the first one that Andrei here highlighted on the slide is content collaborations. And here we just shared one where we just reached to our network and asked about the biggest ABM objections that our network, our prospects, buyers get from their sales, get from their leadership. And we created content about it. Okay, we created LinkedIn post about it. We created the podcast about it. Now, think about that question. I mean, it's a good question to ask anyhow, because I think everybody wants to know answers to that question, because it's like we are reaching out to usually our champions, people who need to sell our solution to their leadership and get sales on board. And we know that they will get critical questions from their leadership, from the sales. They want to know how to answer those questions. So from the perspective of, yeah, they're interested to know answers to the questions, so it's a good way to reach out to them. But from our perspective as a vendor, it's also really good to know what specific objections they are getting. This is a key piece of information, of course, to know. So I'm just sharing that concrete example, but there are many different ways in which you could implement it. Essentially, reaching out, getting a quote from people, getting some input, and then creating content based on that. You can get insider information, but you can also use that to continue that conversation on that topic. Another tactic that you can use is, and we like this a lot, is pre-event engagement. Now, when you were signing up for this live podcast, because it's an event, there's always a question like that there is in the form. You can also fill in any questions that you might have. So we are collecting that information, and we promise we are not going to follow up with you based on that. But another way is just for a sales rep to connect and say, hey, you know what? My expert, such and such, let's say you register for a webinar with Andrei, and Andrei is the expert that you trust, and you register for his webinar. And let's say I'm a sales rep and I'm reaching to you. I don't know, Ivan, I'm reaching to you and I'm saying, hey, Ivan, thanks a lot for registering for that webinar that Andrei is giving about ABM. He asked me to reach out to attendees and just ask what are the top questions that you have, so that he can focus his webinar on what's relevant, right? What is the top challenge that you're trying to solve and learn more about during this webinar? Great question to ask. Helps me connect with you. You're more likely to accept my connection or to respond to me. It helps Andrei to give a better webinar, but it also helps me as a sales rep to get this insider info about the priorities and challenges. Other than collecting the information and then using that to create this personalized follow-up, personalized solutions, and I don't like the word pitches, right? But instead of making just empty pitches, actually showing how a solution can help, there are other things that sales should be doing during demand generation. And that's a very simple thing we call non-sales touch points, right? So we are trying to build a relationship. Maybe they're not yet ready. Maybe you're collecting the information. Maybe we have collected the information, but the time was not right. But you can still keep in touch, keep top of mind as a person with that target buyer, with very lightweight, very non-salesy touch points. You can use content distribution, share, piece of content, like I did here. I was connected to that buyer on WhatsApp. I knew that they were looking to hire, so I offered to help promote that job post. That happened, I don't know, I guess 2 months later or 1 month later or something like that. And we had some free tickets for SaaS stock that I offered him. That's another great way to have a non-sales touch point. By the way, this was a deal that we eventually won because we were very persistent. It was at the beginning. We weren't choosers. We had to be persistent, and that's all I wanted to say about the sales role in demand generation. So to sum it up, do public research to identify the priorities and challenges, do use tactics such as content collaboration, pre-event outreach to get more info, insider info, and kind of never stop following up, but not just, hey, are you ready now? Hey, how about now? But with more meaningful stuff that can be content distribution, sharing valuable insights, but also just being helpful in other ways. Which brings us to the next element in demand generation model that we use, which is distribution.
I just wanted to joke and say, hey, I just wanted to tell me, because my boss asks at what stage is our deal currently. I just wanted to let me know what is the stage it is, right? So so I could report on the next.
I mean, you're in our CRM. You are still at this discovery stage. Where are you? I need to move you in my CRM.
Yeah, when I can actually move you, right? So anyhow, jokes aside, regarding the previous point, I just wanted to drop a few cents about non-sales touch points and just wanted to share a practical example. You guys already asked a couple of questions, right? One of them was from Christina, for example, about junior sales reps. Simple example of non-sales touch point. I would be reaching out after this podcast, just for example, saying, hi, Christina, thanks for fantastic question. We have a LinkedIn profile optimization guide for your sales reps. Wanted to share with you. And again, depending on your relationship, right? So sometimes it would be appropriate. Sometimes it's just enough to share this piece of content. But sometimes you can say, if you would be up, we can have a quick call and just review the profiles of your sales folks and brainstorm how that could be optimized, right? A few ideas that you can facilitate internally. Why? Because these ways you kill two birds with one stone. First, you deliver immediate value and you help your target buyers, right? And two, you create a piece of content that they can use to create internal awareness about you, because they will say, hey, this guy shared it with me. In most cases, it will be branded, which is a positive distribution. And yeah, the third factor here, you book the call, which is one of the most essential things in the relationship building and further progressive profiling, because this is your opportunity to ask additional questions. Why that's the case? What resistance do you face? What challenges you are facing, etc. So this is the key. We have. I'm just looking at the deck. That considering the fact that we're almost in the middle, I feel that we won't be able to cover all of this in the next 7 minutes. So for everybody who is interested, I dropped the link in the chat to our new B2B demand gen playbook, where we share all these examples in more detail and give a step-by-step guideline on how to, first of all, how to get buy-in from sales to run these programs together, and then the exact examples and templates that you can use to maintain this campaign, playbooks. So check the link in the chat, please. And I feel what would be beneficial if I'll cover a few more questions. One of them was from Ivan. I know it's not a typical case, but imagine we can't reach out to our customers to gather insights, buying journey and buying committee members. What activities would you suggest to run to collect all this information to build ICP? So first of all, I think we are kind of, maybe I'm not fully understanding the question, because usually you create ICP based on your clients, based on your historical data. The goal for any program, you always, like the complete goal of ideal customer profiling exercise is to define the patterns of your best clients that you want to replicate, right? You want to identify the qualification criteria, you want to identify the firmographics criteria, the buying committee structure, the buying triggers, etc., and you do it based on the existing clients. If you are referring about, let's say, pipeline generation process, right? How can we sell to these accounts without knowing all this information? Then I would say you are in trouble. Maybe not the best advice that I can give, but I would, jokes aside again, you need to figure out the activities that will enable you to collect this information. Again, what with Vlad, whenever we do in-person workshops or our ABM bootcamps, we always give, especially when it comes to creating playbooks, we always give one restriction to playbooks development. You are not allowed to use email and LinkedIn. So what are you going to do in this case? So imagine LinkedIn and emails are not available, and cold calling as well. So what are you going to do, right? What would be your activities? And from this perspective, this kind of opens the Pandora box, right? So companies, marketers, sales reps, they start thinking out loud about all potential opportunities. But to give you an example, we experienced this multiple times with Vlad when, for example, 𝗪𝗵𝘁 project. The target audience, engineers at factories, people who don't have any social profile. Maybe they have Facebook profiles, but it's very hard to understand that these are the exact people that we are targeting. They don't have LinkedIn profiles. It's almost not possible to find their work emails because they are not publicly available anywhere, right? And even if you'll reach out to them, they are not going to respond. So for us, what we did, we found 𝗪𝗵𝘁 Association, and we were partnering with them, sponsoring via this association, the market research, trying to get connections to the target accounts. So that's one of the ways. Another way is just thinking about what types of events you can host, where again, it's not scalable from the perspective like how many companies think about scalability, but I guess like if you mentioned this use case, in most cases you have a big contract value, right? So it's usually closer to million or above, right? So from that perspective, these activities like in-person events, business breakfasts, etc. Sometimes, even just to give you an idea, sometimes I did this in the past personally when working for corporations. It's just paying a well-known thought leader or speaker, paying the gig and arranging a workshop and inviting the strategic accounts to that workshop. So they come basically to listen to that thought leader, but then you incorporate a few of your own talks, you are able to pre-qualify them, etc. So just sharing with you the ideas, there are always ways. You just need to think out of LinkedIn and email box on how you'll be able to collect this information.
And one more question, if we still have 2 minutes to answer, from Christina. Thank you, Christina, for fantastic engagement and all the questions. Good questions, by the way. Vlad, you mentioned in content section at the beginning example of asking for the quote from the target account. What will be the flow, and how could you give an example of what to do next? And could you give an example of what to do next once we have gathered all quotes from all our target buyers? So the flow here would be, you're going to be much more likely to get a response from target accounts if you have some social proof. If this is not the first person you're reaching out, you have never done this before, it's going to be the most difficult. So what we usually do is, obviously, first you want to come up with the right question. So the flow is, the first is like, we want to come up with the right question. How do you come up with the right question? You go to sales and you ask. If you had to bet your salary or your bonus, your commission on a target account and winning that deal, what is the information that you would like to know about them? What is the information that you would like to understand, whether to bet on them, but also what is the information they would like to know in order to be able to create a perfect sales presentation for that account? and you listen to those questions, and so you pick some of those questions. I would somehow try to figure out these questions. Second, you take the question that you want to ask. So let's say we want to write about ABM objections, like we did in that example. I would probably, like, if that's the first time I'm doing, I have no credibility on LinkedIn, right? So it's the typical situation. I would ask my internal experts, like anybody internally who can give me a quote. Maybe I'm connected to some people. Maybe I have a good, relationship with an existing customer, or anybody who is kind of a low-hanging fruit, but an expert who can give me a quote already, right? And I would also share that, right? So that I can now point when I'm reaching out to new target accounts, I can also point to what we have done in the past, because it's easier. It's like make more legitimate. People are not going to be suspecting you of bait and switch, which a lot of people, unfortunately, there are these few bad sales reps that ruined it for everyone, and now everybody is mistrustful. So that's just the reality you have to accept. So building that social proof just gives you the credibility. Hey, this person was not reaching out to me to get info and try to get me into conversation, but they're actually genuinely sharing that, and they have other credible people who have already participated. So the social proof helps there, right? Then the next step would be to go ahead and ask that quote and to collect it. Then would be to share that content, right? So whether you would collect quotes from different people and create one LinkedIn post, or maybe you were doing an article or whatever, right? You would then create that asset and share it on LinkedIn. Then you would tag that target account, that target buyer, that person in that LinkedIn post, thanking them for the input. Then you would go back to that person and you would share that content and say, hey, by the way, we just shared this. Thank you very much, right? And from there on, you have kind of two options. You have an option to try to get into that conversation, deeper in conversation about that topic. Hey, I love this insight. You mentioned this, and you could try to drive deeper in that conversation. Or what you could do is you could, for example, let's say we are also running an event on the same topic. I would do something like this. Hey, loved your input. People, this post worked really well. It seems like there is a lot of interest in that topic. So we decided to run an event about this topic. In case you would like to attend, this could be another way to continue that relationship or that nurturing process. Many different ways in which you can do that. Obviously, the next time I wouldn't stop there. I would probably, if this was just a quote for a LinkedIn post, that was an easy thing, I would do another one and try, and I would reach out to people who already contributed. Or maybe if I have let's say if I have a podcast or other ways where I can actually interview people, not just get their quote via the message, I would then invite that person, love your contribution, people, it seemed to resonate. I saw that you had a lot of experience in that. My marketing team just started a podcast and asked me to find people who are connected. I shared your quote and your contribution to this piece of content, and they felt that it would be a great guest. Would you be interested to join the podcast? Hopefully, I gave you enough ideas about how you could structure this in a flow, how you could follow up, and what you could do with all of that information that you could collect in quotes. And finally, of course, if you had enough back and forth, if you had collected enough information, whether through that additional interview, just a normal back and forth, etc., and now you really feel like, hey, there might be a opportunity here, a potential opportunity here, then you would go into the last part, which unfortunately we didn't have the chance to finish, which is okay, how do you capture the demand that you have created? Or in this case, how do you try to basically book a call? And I'll just give one example. There are different ways in which you can do this. And Andrei mentioned like creating a personalized solution and sending it to them and creating a content hub. Another one could be also, you know, you mentioned that you're struggling with this, and I just spoke to our expert. Let's say that's an AE or an internal sales architect, sales engineer, whomever is internally. I spoke to my colleague about your question, and he or she, they offered to host a quick session and to share some of the best tips, because they worked on a lot of projects like that, and they said basically offering them kind of an expert session. That could be one example. But okay, I'll stop here. Okay. She seems to like it.
It was a long answer. I thought you just say, hey, thanks a lot for sharing a quote. Would you be up for having a discovery call with me? I think you just complicated it a little bit. But jokes aside, I think when you ask about flow, the first question that you need to ask, how are we going to maintain the relationship with these people, right? How can we raise the curiosity in our product? What next we can do to facilitate that relationship and collect the necessary insights about this buyer persona and this account to be able to even touch the offer part of the sales process, right? Because when sales come and ask about flows, they always perceive that there are easy steps, like I just said. Hey, thanks for the quote. But there are no gimmicks, unfortunately, or silver bullets, right? So just the fact that you do content collaboration and they give you the quote doesn't mean that it's a time now to hook them and try to book a discovery call. So the right process for you would be just thinking about, okay, we got the reply, we have an entry relationship. How can we build on this? That's the key. And on this note, I would love to wrap up this episode. Thank you, everybody, for great questions. Fantastic engagement. Always a pleasure having you guys on this live podcast. We'll make an Easter pause for 2 weeks. Come back in early May with a few live case studies. We'll be inviting our clients with whom we're just finishing the pilot programs in Q1. So again, that would be a fantastic opportunity for all of you to learn from your peers, ask all the critical questions that you want, marketing and sales teams, and learn the practical implementation of account-based marketing. That being said, happy Easter, everybody, and see you in a few weeks. Take care.
Thank you.